Hello, folks. How's everyone doing? Welcome to, I think it's day 5 of GHW. Anyways, I'm actually, let's check it out. So, ghw.mlh.io. Yep, it is day 5, at least for me, for sure. How is everyone? Let's see on the chat. Anyone want to share their experience of how good the GHW has been for you? Let's also wait for a couple of more folks to join and then we will get started. Wow, like day 5. And today I have actually 3 streams. So you'll see me right now. Okay, let's go as per the UK time. Yeah, you'll see me right now building an unofficial MLH Events API. Then we also have another session right after this with a 1 hour break in between, part 2 of building an unofficial MLH Events API. And then, as per again the UK time, I have a third session building an unofficial MLH Events API part 3. So, kinda, in a way, stuck with me today, at least for 3 sessions, each approximately 2 hours long, with some breaks in between, of course. But I hope you enjoy this one, definitely. As with all my sessions, let me just reduce the background music a bit. As with all my sessions, I would say I am always excited in a way because it just gives me the freedom to uh, experiment with lots of things and then take it, uh, build a project out of it, and come on GHW and stream it. And for today, actually, what I'm going to do, or like for the next 3 sessions, what I'm going to do is, as the name suggests, okay, I'm going to build an unofficial Major League Hacking Events API. What I mean by that is, if I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with this, the MLH events page, where you can go and find all the upcoming events that are happening. Similarly, I don't know if you have noticed on the URL. Okay, can I increase the page size? No, sadly no. But on the URL there is mlh.io/seasons/2024/events. You can also change that to, let's say, 2023, and you'll find all the events that happened in 2023. We'll go through it, the motions of what's happening, how it's happening. That's all right. But yeah, what we are going to do is basically take this data, and of course, to take this data, we are not going to manually write it. We are going to write some Python code to scrape the data off the website. Secondly, once we have the data, we are going to build a API, or basically use fast API. I don't know if you have worked with it or no, but even it was my first time working with fast API, and I really enjoyed the experience of what fast API is, how it is. And we'll use the very basics of fast API to build an actual API. So as always, as I said, I am really excited for this. Again, as with all my sessions, I am absolutely excited. Now, quick thing, let me actually share this check-in link here, so that if anyone has missed checking in, they can do it right now. That went into the chat. Please check in, folks. Once you have done, then we can go ahead. I'll give you a minute to just go through it. And at the same time, let me actually complete my setup here, so that while we are streaming and while we are building, we will just I'll be able to see your questions, answer anything that comes along. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, perfect. I am actually done. That was fast. Perfect. So I guess it's a perfect time to get started. So let's get started. Oh, someone had replied. It's been going great. I am so happy. I'm absolutely excited. So moving on, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What are the things that you need to do? So uh, if you have been into my session previously, this is going to be slide of repetition. I think this is going to be slightly repeated, has been repeated on this session for so many times. So, okay, if you want to follow along, I would suggest please create an account on Replit. No, what would I say? No affiliation with me, of course, but I just love the whole Replit environment. Gets helps us get started pretty quickly. As you can see from my recent ripples, I have kind of used it nearly for all my sessions. I think actually for all my sessions, not nearly. So please create an account on Replit. If you have an account, well and good. If you don't have an account, trust me, it's going to be very quick. All you have to do is go to the sign up slash login, and then just try to sign in with Google or sign in with GitHub, and that's it. Then you are in. Second thing is with regards to the project that we are going to build in the this three-part session that I keep talking about. Uh, Let me at the same time just pause the music, and yep, there we are. So the three-part session that I keep talking about, of what it is, how it is. So what are we going to do? We are going to go on this MLH website. So let's, I think, yeah, it's been shared in the chat. So we are going to go on this MLH website, and for all the events, we are going to write some code to scrape the data from the website using something called as requests HTML, okay, which is a Python library. We are going to use that to go over the website and just scrape off all the events data. Now when I say all the events data, I'm not going to just take everything, but I'm going to take some bits and pieces from it to show you how it's done. Secondly, of course, I got permission from the team to do this, so I'm kind of unsure here that what is the policy of MLH with regards to web scraping. But yeah, for the purpose of this stream, I definitely went ahead and asked for permission, which I got. So that's why I will be able to do it. Uh, so yeah, well, with that out of question, now only 2024 season. That's the data that we see right now. But a while ago, I was showing you all, like you could just change that to 2023, let's say, and you can get data for 2023 season. You can change that to, let's say, 2022, and you can get data for 2022. And for 2021, that's available. That's cool. And what about 2020? Oops, page not found. So we have data starting from 2021 all the way to the latest 2024. Okay, from 2021 to 2024. That's the data that we have, and that is what we are going to scrape. Once we have done the scraping part, we are going to use fast API to build a API. What is going to be an API? When we reach that point, I'm going to definitely uh, you know talk more about what API is, how it works, and all the bells and whistles that come with it. So let's get started. Now there is a question first time with Replit. How do we create the project? Let's go through it together actually. Now once you have created an account on Replit, this is where you will reach, okay, on this page. uh, if you have reached on this page, you have created an account on Replit. That's the only requirement that I had asked. Like, please create an account on Replit. Can we do scraping along with it? Yes, you can. Yes, you are. Like, that's the whole, vibe that I go with. Like, let's do it together. Let's build it together. And if I have permission for this session, let's say that default you have permission at least for this on, or more, let's say more like just for this session we can scrape the MLH website. For sessions like when you want to do it personally later, I would say please ask permission, okay, on the Discord chat itself. I think that should be fine. Okay, coming back. So once you have created an account on Replit, more or less you will be on this same home page as I am. And once you're here, let's go to templates. Okay, we have made changes to header. Okay, we can check that out later. Please go to templates. And well, actually we can see the template right here, but if you can't, you have to search for Python here on the search. Now there are multiple Python templates. We are going to go with the first one, which has like 32 million people using it with 3.4k likes. So that is the Python template that we are going to use. Once you click on it and you kind of open a new page where it the on the top right you have the use template option. Now what is use template going to give us? It's going to actually give us the code that is in this template. So now please give it a appropriate name. uh, I am going to give the name as GHW. As you can see, all my GHW sessions kind of have. Are we going to scrape website? Yes, we are. Yes, we are going to scrape website. So GHW and MLH Events API and some quick description. Scrape. What are we going to scrape? We are going to scrape, let's say, this. Now, why am I doing this? Funny story, if you have not heard it before, once I accidentally deleted one or two of my repels, which I really needed because I did not read the name properly and the description, like there was no description. It was just the default that you saw previously. And I did not realize what it was. So I deleted it. And then it hit me. Oh, I needed that. So now, from that day onwards, I've been giving it a proper name to all my repels, you can say. So, uh, scrape this and build an API. Okay. Now click on the use template option. Once you do that, it will create a fork of the template there, and frankly it would be kind of empty, but you get this nice configuration. Like there are these two config files, there's the package manager using Poetry, there are these files, there's virtually env, all those things are there. Okay, a quick recap. Yeah, definitely. So, what are we going to do? We are going to build an unofficial MLH Events API. And to build that, we are going to go to over the MLH uh, website. We are going to scrape off data from the MLH website. And then once we collect that data, into a CSV file. We'll convert that CSV file to JSON file, and then we are going to use Fast API to build an API out of it, definitely. And yeah, that's the idea. For now, all I've asked everyone to do is please go on replit.com. Once you are there, please create an account on Replit if you want to follow along. Once you have created an account, go to templates, search for Python, take the first template, click on the first one, which has like 3.4K likes and 32 million, I think, folks. And click on the use template, give it a nice name and description, and then click on the use template again. And you will reach the same page that I am right now. I hope that was a nice recap. One thing that I forgot to mention in the recap, for this session, I took explicit permissions to scrape the MLH website data. But for the future use case, I'm not sure exactly what MLH terms and conditions and privacy policy is with regards to scraping data. So I would suggest, like, just get a quick permission on Discord and ask, like, if you can do it. Okay, so once you all have reached here and we have main.py, let's see everything works. Now, a basic prerequisite for this 3-part session of scraping would be to have some knowledge about Python, but that's not explicitly required, because I'm going to type code, I'm going to explain what's happening in the code. So you don't really need to explicitly know Python, but a basic uh, knowledge would be really helpful, if you get what I mean. Perfect. So step one, what are we going to do? We are first going to check that our template works. So I'm going to do a print, okay, to print anything to console. This is the console on the right hand side. Yep, yeah. There's a console on the right hand side. There's also a shell. So we are going to use both of them, and we're also going to use a third thing later. But for now, on the console, we are going to print something. Uh, Hello GHW. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to print. Why am I printing this? Just to see that everything works. And yes, it does, which is awesome. Okay, so everything works. Console is here, and your print function works. Print method works. I don't know what would it be. It would be a function mostly in Python. So, and we have some output. So our system works, our environment works. That was the whole point of this exercise. Now, what are we supposed to do? Now, step one is we are supposed to write some code to scrape data. Now, how do we do that? And before we actually do that, let me quickly open request HTML. So what is request HTML? It's a library that intends to make parsing HTML, aka scraping the web, very simple and intuitive. That's what they claim. And frankly, I think they are 99% on point with their claim. It is really simple. Okay, whenever I use it, I'm just amazed that it could be this simple. And for the purpose of this project, we could actually go over to the documentation and just see what their documentation suggests, and we can come back and just copy paste snippets from documentation, come back to our REPL, paste it there. And generally I found the documentation is up to date with regards to how it is supposed to work. Now there's a very nice question here. Is it similar to Beautiful Soup BS4? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Uh, I would say a bit better from there, because for you, as far as I know, okay, as far as I know, and I've used in one of my previous sessions, you use requests and Beautiful Soup together to basically scrape the website. But with request HTML, it is a mixture of both of them. Okay, so one library which does the work of two libraries, I would say. That's what I found with request HTML. So let's quickly get started. Now, step one is this first line where we are importing HTML session from request HTML. Okay, now before I move on, has everyone reached till this point where they have created something, printed it on console, and ensured that everything works? Anyone still stuck at any point? No. Perfect. I have an answer that they have reached this point. Perfect. That's really, really, really cool. Now let's get started. Now, step one. Also, let me share this in the chat. I've shared the link to their documentation right in the chat. So, if you want to uh, follow along, you want to copy paste from their website, feel free to do so. So we have copied one line. Now, some places I'm going to definitely keep a copy of what they have written. Some places I'm going to rename a few variables. But yeah, more or less, we will go through their documentation to actually understand what is happening and how it's happening and all those things. Okay. So once you have copied the first line, what are we doing there on the first line itself? So we are basically saying that from request HTML, which is the library, please import this particular part of the library or section of the library or package. Not package, request HTML is the package, but you import a particular file of particular function, you can say, from the library, which is HTML session. Now, what is the step two? Step two is, so once we have imported it, we have to call that function, and we are then renaming it in a way to a different variable. So session equals to HTML session. So this is our variable here, and we are telling it that it is an initialization of HTML session function. I'm always amazed how Python describes the variable. There is no, like, if you are coming from JavaScript world, you have let and const and var to at least define the variable. Not, if not the type, like, it's not supposed to be a string, it's not supposed to be an integer, it's not supposed to be something else, but at least, okay, this is a variable. With Python, it's like, yeah, this is the variable. Okay, session equals to HTML session, and Python is smart enough to understand, oh, session is a variable. I'm just always amazed by that. So once you have done that part, now let's move on to the next bit. Now, for the next bit, what are we going to do? We are going to define the URL. Now, I'm going to write it all in all caps. And step one, like, we'll take it slowly. So we are going to first see how we can scrape data of one part. Then we will build on that one part and keep on uh, increasing the amount of things that we scrape from the website. We will try and make the code more dynamic. We'll make it functional in a way. We will use some best practices to, yeah, to basically uh, yeah, make the code more adaptable to change. If, yeah, I think those are some heavy words that I could find right now. So first is define the URL of what we are going to scrape. So I have shared this uh, in the chat already, but I'll just do it again. Uh, Here it is. Now we are going to give the URL. We'll create a variable which holds the URL. This is going to be a string, of course. So some double inverted commas around it. So we have defined, why am I keeping so much space in between? I don't know. Okay, now I'm not going to. So we have imported the library. We have session equals to HTML. We have done the initialization. We have defined the URL, which is a string right now. Okay, now once that is done, let's create another variable. We are creating a variable which we will call as response, that is basically equal to session dot get, and what should it get? URL. Now what is this line? You can go back to the documentation, and this is what we have done in a variable way. So we have said that response, which is r, equals to session dot get whatever we want to get, like whichever website's session that we want to create. So when I say session that we want to create, what it means is, uh, like from the library perspective, okay, from the library perspective, we are saying that, hey, are you able to go on this website and successfully load the website? So any website, if you load, let's see if I can show it here. uh, let's go to the network tab and let's do a quick reload. If you are able to go on a website and you're able to establish a session with a website, you can find this code 200, response status code of 200 being returned, which is success. Okay, so that is what it ideally would mean to establish a session with a website, that you're able to hit the website and get a 200 success response from the website. Now with that done, oops, did I scroll all the way to the bottom? Yep, I did. Okay, and we are going to do it synchronous, but once we reach the end of this session, I'm going to talk about how you could improve the code further. Then we'll talk about async sessions. Okay, coming back. So response is equal to session dot get URL. Now I am going to do one thing. I'm going to just print response. Okay, so we have written like these one, two, and five lines of code till now. And now let's just hit run. Now, if you remember that we actually did not install the library. So for any programming language where you can get multiple libraries, again, some uh, kind of difference between, or similarities in a way, between JavaScript and Python. If you want to install a library in JavaScript, you could use npm to install it. Here we can use pip, or as they are using poetry, to actually install the library. So we did not explicitly write the command to install it, even though it is available on their website that you could do this to install the library. But here I find Replit is very smart. It sees what you have tried to import, and if that has not already been installed in the project, it will go over and install it. And here we have the response. Okay, now I'm going to also just very quickly add this variable here, right here, just to show it. Okay, we'll keep a track of all these prints that we keep doing. So response 200, which means it is able to successfully establish a session with this particular page. Now if you see, I've only given it again, uh, kind of hard coded the season to be 2021, and we are going to move ahead with that, but as we go along in the code, we are going to update it to be more dynamic, to just not scrape for 2021 events, but also for 2022, 23, 24. Okay, now let me comment this. So to comment it, you can put a hash at the front of the uh, line, at the front of the expression, or you can also do a control and forward slash before the line, if you are on Windows. And if you're on Mac, you can do a command and forward slash. Now, once we have what is meant by 200, 200 means success. Okay, it means success. Let me find what's it called? Status codes response. Yeah, HTTP response status codes. So here you can find uh, the list of response codes that you will receive from a website. So informational responses are between 100 and 199. Successful responses are 200 to 299. So 200 okay, 201 created, 202 accepted, and all these response codes between, like, then there's like 300 where 303 304 is not modified. uh, you have 308 permanent redirect. So there are multiple response codes. There are also like 400, 401, and number of actually response codes, I would say. So from that, when we get a response of 200, 200 response, as it says, it means okay, the request has succeeded. Okay, coming back. So now we have hard coded it. We have been able to establish a session. So what's the next step? The next step is to actually scrape some data off the website. Now, let us go over to the documentation and see. Here, what are they doing? They are actually writing some, like, uh, let's ignore the async part, but what they have done, they have created a function where they say get python.org, and they're awaiting the session to get python.org, like just establish a session with python.org, then with reddit.com, then google.com, and then there is this code: grab a list of all links on the page. And you could do something like this and xyz stuff. But what is the idea here? What are they exactly trying to do? So we are going to focus more on this kind of syntax, which is r is the response. Okay, so response.html.find, you give it something, like you give it a hash, means id. So in html you can, sorry, there's a question here. We can do this using react/js as well. You mean the scraping part? Yes, you can, definitely. Yep, yeah, you can do it with JavaScript. I like Python here. Sorry, because once we do this, then we are also going to you know put it in a CSV file, convert it to JSON. I don't know why, but personally, I think that's kind of very intuitive in Python as opposed to JavaScript. But again, that's my personal opinion. So here, coming back, sorry. So here, this particular line, what it says like response, from the response. So when I say a response, okay, again, sorry, a follow-up comment here, like, but it's better in Python. Yep, I personally feel, yeah, it is. uh, Okay, going back to the documentation. So from the response, when it says a response, what it means, once it has established a session with a particular web site or web page, it has returned a response of 200. It also gets everything on the page. Okay, and from that everything on the page, we can say like, okay, what is the meaning of everything? It gets all the HTML, okay, which you can actually see when you do uh, just inspect element and you go on this elements. So this is the HTML of this particular page. So it gets all the HTML, and then there is this dot find, where in the find function you are telling it find something. Okay, now, okay, they haven't, it seems like, used any ID, but you can define very basics. You can define two things for HTML. You can define a class, you can define an ID. Okay, when you get an ID, that means that it is, say, like, to select an element with a CSS selector of, let's say, ID, you put a hash and then the name. And if you put a dot and then some name, like some name being like, let's say, document, a dot and document, that means you are doing a CSS selector of using class. So if you click on this learn more, you can find like you use dot and the class name to select an element. Okay, select an element with a class. Here you can see this. If you want to use this page top, okay, page top, which is basically an ID, you would use it by, like, in the find you will say hashtag page top. Okay, and if you want to use, let's say, this w3 dash bar no translate w3 dash white, then you will use a dot and this whole thing, because it's a class. So I hope that made a bit of sense. And the first equals to true, as the name suggests, like very, very, very on the face. Find the first, uh, in this case, it's saying find the first ID, which has the ID name as hash about. Sorry. I'm getting response 403. It says forbidden. Don't do it again and again, because the website, or even maybe Chrome, would not allow you to do it. uh, but yeah, we wouldn't normally do any authorization here, definitely. So let's see, client error responses, you are getting 403 forbidden. The client does not have access rights to this content. Okay, so I would say don't try to ping the website again and again. It will kick you out, it will block the request. So if you are not able to ping to 2021, just change the URL to ping to 2022 and you should be fine. Okay, so there's a question here. If we select hashtag about, what will we get, whole tag or something else? Let's actually find that out. There's also another suggestion, maybe the URL is wrong. Yes, that is also possible, so please check the URL. Okay, it was in the chat. I can highlight that quickly for you, or you can just go to mlh.io website, which I think it's pretty easy to remember. mlh.io. Once you are there, click on hackathons and click on the first option from the drop down, 2024, and then change it to 2021, so that we are on the same page, literally. Okay, now let's do a inspect element. And yeah, lots of things here. Now, I am interested in finding the data of this particular event. Okay, so I'm particularly interested to find the data of this particular event. Now, when it established a session, it actually got everything, but I am most interested in getting at least, like, just go over one card see what it looks like. And if you see, so there's this first card. Okay, let's shut this. So you will see some similarities here. So there is class of event. There's the event dash number which is changing. So that means that, this is one way we can specifically select one thing from the page, like one card. So if you are able to scrape off one card, then you can scrape multiple cards. Let's open that up. Okay, before we go over, the URL is fine, you're on the same page. Then I think it's mostly, all of us, at least like 30, 35 odd people are trying to hit it at the same time. Maybe that's why. So just take a break, I would say. Also try to change the year of the page URL. So maybe go over to 2022 or 2023. I think that should work. Or also refresh Replit, just shut it, open it again. You can open your projects, like when I say projects, you can open the project that you have been working on right from the home page. You can click on, like, you will find it in recent ripples, so you can open it from there also. So these are frankly the only things that I could suggest to resolve this error. I'm so sorry about it. So, okay, going back. Now, how do you, like, we found that for one card, there is this particular div which has a class of event and event dash some number, uh, and XYZ. But inside that, once we open it, there is a div class again, which is more apt. It looks more apt because, as you can see, once I highlight over it, it selects this particular div of event wrapper. Is this class available on others? Yes, it is. Okay, it is available, and the best part is we don't really, it's one single class. So this second div with class of event wrapper, it has like this div has only one class name, which kind of solves our issue of this dynamic numbers that we see here. Okay, so we can actually scrape the data from the class of event wrapper. Let's do that. Let's come back to our code and let us write event wrapper equals to the response dot html dot find. And since it is a class, and in the CSS selectors I showed you that you do a dot to get a class. So dot and dot what, dot event dash wrapper. So I'm going to just quickly copy that, come over to main.py and paste it here, and let's print it. And let's run it. Perfect. So we ran it and it returned us a data which is like element. It is a div where the class is event wrapper and element div. Like, these are all the cards. Okay. These are all, man, this is very trippy. These are all the cards that are available on the website, and it has scraped those individual HTMLs, those individual divs, actually, I would say, and stored it into an element. Now, if you look at this, you will think that, hey, has it only scraped off the line of div? uh, like that was my first thought, but no, it hasn't. It has all the data inside that particular div. So inside this div there's a tag, and inside that a tag there's another div, And inside that you have diff, h3p, meta, and div, and all those things. It has actually scraped it, okay, individually. So now it is individual uh, event wrappers that is stored inside this element. Okay, so it exists. Bottom line, it exists, so you don't have to worry. uh, okay, now what is the type of this? Anyone would like to uh, quickly help me? I think it's called as type and event wrapper. This should work. Do you have to put brackets here? Probably. Let's see. In JavaScript, as I remember it, right, it is type of. And here, I think it's type. Okay, so it is a class of, like, it's a list. So I'm going to just quickly rename the variable to be event wrapper list. Why? Uh, I think that would be very easy to remember later on, that, oh, this is supposed to be a list. And when it is supposed to be a list, or you can think of a list, if you are not familiar, a list can be thought of as a event, as a array. Okay, and on an array you can loop over an array. Okay, that is the best part of the arrays. Okay, so with that in mind, let's comment this out. uh, let's move on to the next part. So as I said, it's a event wrapper list, and if it is a list, you can loop over it. So let's loop over it. Why are we looping over it? Because if you remember, and let me just quickly print it again. Like, basically we got lots of elements in the list, or you can say lots of elements in the array, and we want to loop over that particular array so that we can get out individual things out of it. Okay, we take individual things out of that uh, list. So to loop over anything, we are going to, let's say in Python, we are going to uh, loop over using for loop. So for event wrapper in event wrapper list. So for event wrapper and event wrapper list, what is event wrapper? This is another variable that we are creating on the fly. Like, for this particular variable, you can call it, let's say I, for I in event wrapper list or whatever. So from for event wrapper in event wrapper list, give me event name. That's the first thing that I want to find. Now, event name, let's go back here. Let's go back to MLH website. And there is a H3 which has a class of event name that actually has the name here, Hackation. So with this newfound knowledge, let's go back to our code, and we know that in the for this variable, so please find what? Please find the event name, individual event name. So again, that is a class. So we can just say dot event name, and we want the text of it. Okay, what is the text? Dot text. So again, going back to the requests documentation, print about dot text. It gets the text content of an element, and this is what it got. Similarly, let's see what this gets for us. So after we have done that, let's print out the event name. I'm going to comment the event wrapper list part and print out the event name. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's still the same. I guess I'll try another website with you. Okay, now it gives me an error. It says that event wrapper dot find event dot event name dot text. has some attribute error. A list object has no attribute dot text. Okay, it means that it is possible. Again, this is more of a pure guesswork. It is possible that there are multiple event names. So can I do a first equals to true and try? Okay, let's try this. Yep. So it was quite possible that there are multiple, and that is why it was not able to find the exact dot event name. So that we change that to first equals to true, find the first element where the that has event name, like not the first element. In the element, the element with a capital E, find the text content of the class dot uh, event dash name first equals to true, and get the text from it. And we are able to successfully scrape it. Okay, so congratulations to all of us. We have been able to scrape at least one bit of information from the MLH website, which is the event name. And yeah, I think that this is a really good start. Now let's move on to the next bit. Okay, now I hope everyone has reached to this page. Let me just quickly gloss over the chat and see. So Maruti says that the URL is fine. It's still the same. Try another website. Yeah, and yeah, I think refresh is the only thing that can kind of help us here. If that doesn't work, let me find a website which will work. Like just give me a second. What was it? I remember using it in my previous session. Uh, mm, okay, let me try and find that. Uh, oh, I can actually find it here. Why am I searching so far? Replit.com. Let's go to my repls, and in the repls, let me just find another Python repl. Python. Did I delete that one? Interesting. No, these are React, HTML, Java, web scraping with Python, GHW. Yep, there it is. Uh, yep. You can use this website as an example of scraping. So if you want to, yeah, legally scrape a website, this is one example of what you can use to scrape. uh I think the website is called as toscrape.com. Yep. And inside on the website they have like these two sub websites. One is books.toscrape, and there's this quotes website, so you can use either to actually scrape it. Another question, what is first equals to true doing? Thank you so much, bug breaker 18, to resolve that. Yes, it is kind of finding the first one. Can you explain the with opens? Oh, we'll come to it. Don't worry. We will come to it. That was just to find the website to scrape if MLH website is not working. Uh, Okay, so for event in event wrapper list, in like for this particular variable, find the class first equals to true. Basically, the first occurrence of event dash name, the class, that div which, or the element which has the class of event name, find the first one of it, and give me the text. Now, what else can we scrape off from the website? The second thing that I think I would like, we can actually find it here, the date, event dash date. There's an event dash date. So let's take that. So we can copy this, not let's write it, like we're not that lazy. So event date equals to event wrapper dot find. And now, at one point you are going to find it that I'm being kind of repetitive here. Like, we do this, and it is going to be repetitive because, uh, well, that's how it works. So true, and then dot text, and let's print that too. So event date, I'm only printing the event date right now, I'm not printing the event name. Okay, it works. Let's just quickly stop. Okay, there's nothing like a quickly stop it. uh, but yeah, you get the idea. Now let's go back here. If you see here on the website itself, you'll find that, uh, for the event date, you will see that there's July, there's 3rd dash 5th, and there's a space here. Okay, how can you tell the difference? Look at hackation. So wherever the word n ends, that's where the closing tag of HTML starts. But that's not true for this particular case. Okay, there is. Okay, someone said screen freezed. Has it frozen? Interesting. Well, it's shows me that the Wi-Fi is working. Oh, it was. It's back now. I'm hoping. I'm assuming. I'm literally praying. Okay, is it back now? Like, can you see the MLH website? Me scrolling on the MLH website? Yeah, perfect, perfect, perfect. So we are back. What like to quickly recap? There was event date, which where we did event wrapper dot find event date first equals to true dot text, and we printed that out, and it gave us the event date. What is the event date? It is nothing but terms like these, like July 3rd dash 5th. And I was talking about like how for hackation, like basically for event name, there's no space around the name. Okay. So hackation, like this is where item prop name ends, the closing tag, the name, then the closing tag h3. But that is not the case with this one. There is a space here. If you open it on your own machine and you like kind of zoom into it, you will find that there is a space. So how do we remove this additional space? Like it's not harming us in any way, but to understand how to remove additional spaces, we can do dot strip. Okay, so when we do a dot strip, it strips out any additional white space around it. Is the syntax on this? I think so. Apparently no. But yeah, I actually had googled, how do you remove the spaces, and it told me, oh, you could use dot strip, and that's what I did. Okay, so again, the output would be very much this one, but there wouldn't be additional spaces, which I don't think it's quite visible here, but yeah, that is going to be the case. What else can we scrape from the website? Now I'm going to be uh scraping, I'm going to scrape this meta item prop, start date and end date. Okay, you see these two things. This is what I'm going to scrape. Now, this is very interesting. Why? Because you cannot do a dot text here. The dot text gives me this particular name, which is in white. Okay, that is what the dot text gives me. But for this meta item prop, there is no dot text because there's no text actually wrapped around this meta item prop. So how do we get this thing from here? Now, why do I want that? Because interesting, my do not disturb started, which is super curious. uh, okay, now why is this interesting? Because, well, the thing is that if you look at the date here properly, you will see that this is more of an actual date. This July 3rd to 5th, it is good enough, but it is not the best date out there. Why? It does not specify the year. Okay, it, and we kind of have to convert it like July 3rd dash 5th, so we would have to eventually convert it like from like to a particular date, like a proper format, like 3rd July of what, 2021, 2022, what is it? But here with this meta item prop, we could actually get the proper date from this website, which I think would be more helpful. So let's do that. Let us take this particular thing out from here, and event start date equals to event wrapper dot find. Now this gets interesting. So how do I find a element uh, called as oops meta item prop equals to start date? Well, actually it's going to be very simple. It is very simple. You could do meta with square bracket item prop equals to. Now since we are using double inverted comma here, so we cannot use another double inverted comma inside because we want to escape. I will have to escape it, so I'm going to use single inverted because I'm lazy. I don't want to escape double inverted, so I'm going to use single inverted comma start date. And along with this, I am also going to tell it that, okay, find the element which is a meta element with a item prop equals to start date. Okay, so find the element meta with the item prop equals to start date. And what should you return me? What should it return to me? It should return me the content. Okay, the value where did it go? Sorry, yeah, the value of the content, which is 2020-07-03. So please find the element called as meta with item prop start date, and please return me, whoops, screen frozen again, which is curious. What is down? It shouldn't be my internet speed for sure, but let's flex here. Please ignore me. Uh, the internet speed is fine. So I think the streaming over to Twitch is what keeps it frozen. But okay, if as soon as it starts working, someone please let me know. Otherwise, we'll wait here for like quite some time before I actually start writing some code. To go ahead, it are. Okay, I'm still on Replit page. Mm, okay, now it's good. Hush, thank God. So coming back, uh, I was I audible? Like, just a quick curious question: was I audible? Like, did you all hear what I had to say? A reply would be perfect. Thank you so much. So you know what I was talking about, but I'll quickly recap over it. We were trying to find this meta with item prop start date, and we want to get the content, the value of the content from it. So let's go over to main.py. This is what I wrote. Event wrapper.find. This is kind of becoming a multiple time thing, but this is the curious part. Okay, I am also going to paste it in the chat. So I'm telling it, like, please find the element which has a tag of meta, and the square bracket suggests, okay, it suggests that, take the item, like meta with item prop start date. Like, we're not telling it to just find the element of meta. We are telling it, please find the element of meta with particularly item prop equals to start date. Okay, is what this particular line means. And from that, okay, if that's not where we stop. Why? Because we if even if we got the element, we will not get the value of the content, which is 2020-07-03. So to get that, I'm going to do dot a double t r s and square bracket content. Now this is the syntax. Let's go over to the scripting website and let me see if I can. Why did I do that? AWTRS. Yep. Introspect and elements attributes. So if you do, let's say, about dot attributes, like about is something here, but dot attributes gives you a object, or you can say it gives you a dictionary of a key value pair, where id is about, class is this, aria has pop-up equals to is true. So it gives you a key value pair. So that is what we have done. We are telling it, like, for this meta key with the meta with item prop equals to start date kind of key, find the content. Okay, and let's print that. Of course, our favorite part, event start date. And if I remember it right, this ideally would fail, but let's see if it does. Yes, it does. Why? Because first equals to true. So once I do that and once I run it, we have the dates, all the start dates, 2020 and 2021. Okay, we got all the start dates. Third, and this is just the start date. Okay, so please don't start comparing it with the end date, but this is the first start date, 2020-07-3, that is 3rd of July. Let's see if we can find it for the second one. 10/7/2020. So 10th of July, yep, there it is. There was another event on 10th of July. Interesting. Vandy hacks. Okay, so I think this is the perfect time to take a break and let me investigate my internet issue. But meanwhile, what are you supposed? A very quick, short homework for you, like 10-minute homework kind of, because we are going to take a 10-minute break. The homework is create a variable, call it as event end date, and just take the content of event end date. It should be actually pretty similar to this one, or it would be exactly similar to this one. So yeah, let's take a quick 10-minute break. Stretch yourself, drink some water. If you're sitting, just stand and walk around like me. If you're sitting like me, just get up, walk around, come back. And once you're back, please create a variable, call it event end date, and yeah, just try and get the content for it. So with that, I am going to put a ticker. You can see when we are going to get back. It should be mostly in approximately 10 minutes. I'll put some music on for all of you. And yeah, make sure you drink water and try and do the event end date. Thank you. hello. Back. Okay, so you're done. Oh, yeah, I know it was very simple. We still have time, so if anyone has not taken a break, feel free to just quickly go off the radar for 2 minutes and have some water and be back. But since I am back, little bits of useless piece of information. I started this session at 6 a.m. As per like the UK time, which is pretty early even by my standards. And I had to wake up at 5, which is why you'll find my voice a bit groggy. I'm speaking very slowly. Like at least on the first bits. If you are going to rewatch this session on YouTube, this is the disclaimer that yeah, it started way early for me definitely, which is why yeah, a bit of grogginess there. But now I think I'm back to my usual self. Secondly, I actually forgot to give my mandatory speech, which I just realized. Uh, and it's just basically what I want to request everyone here is if you have done this before, if you are good with Python and you find this going very slowly, and you just want to get up and leave, please don't. Okay, humble request, please don't. Why? Because well, simply just stay and help others who are new to this whole domain. Uh, just stay back, help others in chat. People will ask questions. If you could help them, that would be really great. So that is why, very humble request that please try and stay back. Yeah, I think this is the perfect time to get started. And okay, the music's out. Let's go back to our session. Okay, so yep, it is simple. I know you have done it, but because I I have to show it, I'm going to show it. So just below this, and I've uh, increased the size of this because I wanted to show you similarities between this. So event end date, so that is the name of the variable that I'm creating, that would take our event wrapper, which is the variable over which we are looping kind of we are using to loop over, and we create this. uh, I can make an assumption here definitely that it is going to be meta prop, and this should be end date because that's how we develop things. Okay, we normally you will find that you are going to write very similar kind of code. Why? Because you want to be able to read it. So if you are creating a start date, you will definitely create an end date in a similar manner. So more of an assumption here, but it should be like this. I will add the first equals to true, and then dot attrs of let's say content, and I'm going to print it, event end date. Let's run it. Why do I keep running it? Yeah, because I want to see if I have done it correctly. Yeah, it gives me 5th of January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Yeah, 5th of July 2020, which I think is the correct end date. uh, Yep. Perfect. What's the next thing that we want? Of course, we want the location. Now, the location, this is again interesting bits. Uh, I think this is the perfect website to kind of gloss over different options, like different ways of scraping off data. uh, we did a meta item prop, we did class names, we know how id would work. uh, just put a hash there definitely, but we have worked with class names, we have worked with attributes which don't have content, which don't have text content around it, dot text around it. Now let's work with a div where we have two things here definitely. We have city and state, where city is everywhere and state is worldwide. Why is it everywhere worldwide? 2021. Was this the start of COVID? I'm assuming, yeah, like 2020. Yeah, I think that was there. But if you want to understand what they mean, so let's go to 2024. Let's check out this one. Let's say Kathmandu, Nepal. Okay, so if you see, the signature is very much similar. There's a city, there's a state, and but the names have changed. Like, you know, city is Kathmandu, state is Nepal. So at some of the cards that we are going to scrape, will have city as everywhere, state as worldwide. There's no city called as everywhere, there's no state called as worldwide. But you know, on the website we will find some names which represent some actual places. uh, uh, Now this is more of an assumption, but I think the city and state were written explicitly for the US locations. So in the, I think this is an assumption, okay? Please don't hold me for it. But I'm assuming that Baltimore City and Maryland State is what was on mind when, you know, this was written, which is why Kathmandu, Nepal is broken into city and state. Uh, okay, let us go back 2021, and now we want that part. So let's get this print out of. Okay. Yeah, what's the next bit? We are going to add the city and state. So ideally what we would do right now is we will scrape the city name, we'll scrape the state name, then we'll create a new variable called as event location, which will merge them together. Okay, join them together with a comma, the way it has been done here. There's city, there's state, joined together with a comma. That is what we will also do. So let's call event city equals to event wrapper dot find. Now, what can we do here? Well, we can actually follow the similar pattern that we had done. Meta item prop equals to end date. That, oh my god, goodness, my internet. Uh, but why is only rep- only replit freezing? I swear my internet is good. Yeah, I think this should be fine enough for streaming, definitely. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, let's go ahead. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that this keeps happening. My fear is that this, if this keeps on happening, I have a session again after hours break in between. Then I have a session at UK night time, evening time, I would say, 8 p.m. UK. So this is very much very too annoying right now. Okay, so let's go back. So we can follow the similar structure. Meta item prop time I was able to frozen. Ah, oh, it's raining heavily. Maybe that's why. Again, assumption that I'm making. It's always raining in the UK, but yeah, it's raining heavily right now, which may be one of the reasons uh, that whenever I go on Replit, that's when it starts raining heavily and it freezes. Lol. Meta item prop. Instead of that, we can do a span item prop of city, but this interestingly has the text content. So we can do a just dot text around it, on it. Working, not working, working, not working. Okay, only Replit tab has some issue. Okay, just want to get to the end of this session definitely. Uh, okay, let's write it. So we have to do span, and in the span, what we are saying is that we want to do uh, what was it? Item prop prop equals to city. Yep, that should work. First equals to true, and then dot text. And I'm going to follow this similar structure for event state, which I know is similar. Okay, span item prop equals to state, and we get the online from there. So now I'm going to show my lazy bit, and I'm going to just copy paste that here. And here I am going to write it state. Okay, this code was going to break because I had forgotten a closing bracket here before the end of the second inverted comma. So span square bracket item prop equals to city, span square bracket item prop equals to state, first equals to true dot text. And now we create a third variable. Let's call it event location, which is what? Which is eventually event city plus. Now I'm going to do it the crude way first, and then I'm going to show you something cool, I would say. Event city plus event state. Let's print this particular thing out. Event location. Okay. Now let's run that. Oh, that's why it keeps getting bigger. I was thinking like, why? Why? Why was it getting bigger and bigger? Now I know. Okay, so 2021 seems like everything was everywhere and either worldwide or online. Okay, so there's a question here. The span tags are inside the div event location. So it should be included in the find method for getting city and state. No, not really. Why? Let me gloss over. So when we say that we want to find a particular tag, a particular HTML tag, which has some content around it or something. Now previously, why did we do the div class of event wrapper? Because this is what is repetitive across the each what's it called, each card. Okay, so it is repetitive, and it is also the easiest class name. So that's why we included that particular div. So when we wrote our first line of code where we said that please find the HTML, all the HTML content uh, which has event wrappers, at that time we chose this particular div. Okay, like please get this, but get all the HTML inside it. How do I know that it has HTML inside it? If you click on this very small three dots and you click on edit as HTML, okay, that particular line of response.html.find event wrapper, it basically is returning me everything that is inside here. Now, when we got everything, now if you look at this particular structure of code, okay, if you look at this particular part of piece of code, you will realize that there is a span here. There's also a span here which has digital only kind of, but that's it. Okay, that's it. So it's kind of in this particular element, it is kind of, you could say, unique. If it is unique, that is where we just pick that out. And that is why we don't need the class of event location explicitly to scrape it or pinpoint to that particular span element. We know that span element with item prop city and item prop state is unique here. I hope that clears something for you. Now there's a question: when should I use dot att the attributes, and when should I use dot text? A very easy way to remember it would be like whenever you have uh text. Okay, whenever you have text everywhere worldwide wrapped around the element, which is like wrapped around, the span starts here. Okay, opening angle bracket, span starts here, and closing angle bracket is here, and there's a text in between that span tag. Then you use the dot text. And whenever you have things like meta, item prop start date content equals to this, there's no like closing meta with content in between. That's when you can say you need the attributes. So yeah, that is one way to quickly see it and remember it, that oh, there's no content or there's no text around this meta tag, so I want to get the value of a particular attribute. Okay, it's a HTML attribute. Content here is an HTML attribute on this meta, so I want to get that value, so you use attribute. And if you want to get text, you use, like, if there is text available between in a inside an element, you use the dot text. Now a follow-up question is, but event location is repetitive. If tags are unique, then we can use them directly, but even the event location is repetitive. I'm sorry, I'm still thinking. Event location is repetitive uh, between the cards, yes. And let's say, like, even if we use event location, we can only get the div. Now inside the div, we would still have to explicitly choose this span tag to get the values. And I think I, like, I kind of bypassed that and chose directly the span tag. I hope I'm, like, kind of making sense. Okay, okay, perfect. Yeah, so if yeah, even if I take the event location, I could say, like, get me the div which has a class of event location, but I would still have to go inside it to find the span tag of item prop city. But since, as I said, like, in that particular div, I know that span item prop city is one thing that I can directly pinpoint to, I chose to do that in a way. Okay, so we got all the data for all the events, the location for all the events. Perfect. All right. Oh, thank you so much. That I kind of made sense. Uh, Now, event location. Here, as I said, this is very crude way of writing or concatenating two strings. So we can do it smartly. There is a concept called as F strings in Python. Okay, let me see if I can find some documentation. F strings in Python. So it is a very improved way of uh, writing or doing some string concatenation. So I found this nice blog from Real Python. Like, we did one part actually. We actually did of the joining by using a plus sign. You could also do a percentage sign, where you, like, put hello percentage s, and then you replace that percentage with the variable that is also there. There's a string dot format, so you could do something like this dot format and put in the names of variables which you want to go, and it would go where you want it, like in a way, like in the order. Like the first bracket will have name, the second one will have age, and the new improved way is f strings. So where you do f and then you write the string. uh, a equivalent would be uh, backticks. Yeah, backticks in JavaScript. If you have done that, that is what it would be equivalent. Now I'm sorry. Now the good thing is that you could also do some mathematical expressions inside f strings, because it is evaluated at runtime. So you could do f string of, let's say, 2 into 37, so it would return a string of 74. Yeah. Okay, but not going too much over it. What we want to do is we use f string and we say event city in curly brackets, comma, event state. And this is going to return us exactly the same thing that we see on the right hand side. But the code, as you would, I think you would agree, looks much better. Perfect. Moving on to the next bit, which is now that we have event location, what is kind of remaining? We are still remaining to add some code, find event hybrid nodes. Now, event hybrid nodes. Uh, okay, now this one I would say, let's do it uh, like bug breaker 18. This is for you. Man, I feel like a DJ right now. But what I mean is, if let's say you wanted to target the class event hybrid nodes, okay, and inside that you wanted to target this span element, I could do it like, get me the span, but it does not have any attribute on it. So this is more like, this is the way we are supposed to do it, or we would be do it. We will be able to do it easily. Is get the class of event hybrid nodes, inside that class pinpoint to span, and get the text of that. Empty attributes, give it a try, and if it works, please share the code. If it doesn't, then I think that's all right. It's definitely worth trying. uh, so yeah, please give empty attributes a try and see if you can find, if you are able to do it. But the way I did it was, I pinpointed to class event hybrid nodes and the span inside it, and got the text content out of it. So I'm going to name it as event hybrid nodes. No surprise there, definitely. And we say that event wrapper dot find. Now this is where the things are going to get interesting. To find a class, what we do dot event. What was the class name? Dot event hybrid nodes. So I'm going to copy it, Control C, aka Command C if you're on Mac. So this event hybrid nodes, that's how I found the class name. And you could also do space span. First, let's add the first equals to true, and then do a dot text on it. Now, this interestingly worked. Okay, why did it work? Uh, Actually, let's see if it works before I you know, give my comments on it. So let's see if this works. And I know it will work because I prepared for this session, of course, and I know that it worked. So, but why does this work? So we told it to find the element which has event hybrid nodes as the class name and the space span. Okay. And I think on the documentation, that's where I actually found about it. Uh, I mean, I'll have to go over the documentation again. But on the find, if I remember it correctly, that's where I had found something which was talking about how you could do a find, and if there is a element inside it, like a span element, uh, either it was documentation or it was Stack Overflow. But yeah, if there is a element like a meta element inside a class, or a tag, not element, a span tag inside a class, or a meta tag inside a class, you could just do a space and then name of that, and that would work. And it did for me. So that is the only reason why we are doing it the way we are doing it right now. uh, but yeah, I hope that's helpful piece of advice from Stack Overflow. It was a helpful piece of advice for me, definitely, from Stack Overflow. uh Now the last part, and that I am pretty sure I found it on this one. Yep. So to get all the links on a page, you could do something like dot links to grab a list of all links on the page in absolute form, which is basically saying anchors excluded. Then you can do dot absolute links. Yeah. So you could do like dot absolute links. I'm going to write event link code. And where are we getting that event link code? Like, just if you're wondering. So if you remember, we have this div with class event wrapper. Then inside that, we have this target equals to blank. And it has a href, which is actually the event link. Okay, hack it, ship it, hackp.ac slash hack it, ship it. So this is the link that we want to grab. Okay, it's an individual link to the event. So I'm just grabbing the link. I'm not going to go inside the link and do some stuff or something, scrape inside or something. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to grab this href. Now, two ways to do it are way one. Let's show the way one. So event link equals to uh, event wrapper dot find. Now find, it has a class name, interest, like, thankfully, which is event dash link. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to do a dot event link. And then if you remember from the documentation, you could do just a dot absolute underscore links. So this would return us the event link actually, but you'll find that it is kind of weirdly formatted. First equals to true. Yep. So there we have the event link. Okay. Or I could say something in the format of event link. What is the type of this? It's a set. It's a class set, which is fine. But we don't want a set. We want it as a string, individual string. So the second way, like There are ways to actually convert it to a string. You could do all that, but to go over to the attributes, if you remember, so I'm going to actually uh yeah change the code a bit. So we want to find the class which has event link first true, and we can do a dot attrs dot attributes. Like in that particular line there is an attribute which is called as href. Please get that. So now I think it has started making a bit sense. If I want to uh, get the item prop of url, so attributes is item prop. I want to get the title, you could do it here, like, you know, to get the title, which is I think same as the event name. Event name and title, yeah, they look pretty same. Let's check it for another event. So happy birthday MLH, and inside that, yep. So you know, we could have tried to get the title directly from this a tag itself, uh, by doing at dot attrs, that dot attributes of with title. So that's also a possibility. But yeah, I hope this makes sense. And now let's try running it. And there we have it in a better format, okay, which is not a set. It is yeah, plain old string, definitely. So we got every link, okay, all the links possible. Perfect. Now, I hope all of this made some sense. Now, let me just quickly go over the chat here. Uh, it didn't work with empty attributes. Uh, well, I think it was definitely worth a try. Uh, so, thank you so much for trying that. Now, what have we done? Let's quickly recap over it, because now comes the next interesting part. Now will come the next interesting part, which is to store it in a CSV file. So we imported request HTML, we created a session, we gave it a URL, we tried to establish the session. It was a success, thankfully. Uh, and then from once the session was established, we told it to find on the page, uh, like, you know, it went on the page, and on the page we told it to please find a class which has dot event wrapper, like the any element which has, or sorry, HTML tag which has event wrapper as the class, and return it. And that returned us a list or an array of elements, all of which had event wrapper as the class names. Now, since it was a list or an array, we looped over it and we tried to find these things from the webs, like from that element array. Okay, like we found the event name, the event date, the start date, end date, city, state, location, hybrid nodes, event link. And there are so many more things that you could find. You could find the image, okay, the image wrap to actually get the image. You could find the event logo, okay, to actually get the logo. But I'm not going over it right now because I still have lots of things to cover. But yeah, if you want, you could find, like, you know, scrape that data too, because for the images, the images are nicely in a link form. So you could grab this S3 AWS link, which has the image for individual uh, events, for individual cards. Now, once we have done all this, now let's go and see. Can we? Hmm, we should write it. Sorry, we should write it in a CSV file. Okay, why a CSV file? I found it easy, and uh, there was this one time where my manager, uh, and me had a very big discussion of CSV versus JSON. Okay. Now, JSON is very good for APIs, or I mean, it's more of a structure, it's a proper structure, but it is very heavy. So, if you have a, some data which you can uh, throw in an Excel, and you are able to properly structure the data in an Excel or Google Sheets, then definitely store that data into a CSV. What I mean by that is, from the data that we have currently, event name, event date, event start date, end date, city, state, location, hybrid nodes, event link. If you imagine a Excel sheet or a Google sheet, event name can be one column header, event date can be second, event start date third, fourth, and so on and so forth, and everything else can fall into a place one below the other. Like, I hope you're being able to imagine that particular sequence. Okay, all these variables can go on the top and all the values can go below it. So if you are able to structure your data in that manner, then store your data in CSV. CSV is very lightweight. Also, it does not store the type. So let's say you have some string, you have some numbers, you have some dates, okay, in proper formats. Then a JSON will store strings in double inverted. It will store numbers as numbers. It will not wrap it in double inverted, and it will carry that information, that meta information, over the network, which is why JSON becomes heavy. Okay, it stores the type of the key and the value. If you are not sure what a JSON looks like, it looks something like this. You can call it, let's say, name, and like, just focus on this part. Okay, so name, and let's say that is UT, and let's say you give it time, which is a variable, and that is not a string. You give it in a format of 2023 dash 07 dash 21. Now, a JSON is going to store this information, the meta information associated with this variable and this value. It will remember that, oh, this is a time format, and it is going to carry that meta information with it. Uh, if you say a number, which is like 61, let's say, it is going to remember that, oh, this is a number, it's a integer or whatever, and like, ignore what the error is. But yeah, a JSON carries this meta information, a CSV does not, which is why it is very lightweight. When should you not use CSV? When you have data which is nested. So example, if let's say event location was the outer, and event city and event state were the inner values, I should not have deleted this. So let's say uh, location is the outer value, and that again has a nested thing with city, which is, let's say, Mumbai, and state, which is Maharashtra. Okay, in this case, there's nested data. This is not exactly going to look good in Excel unless you join two columns, okay, merge two columns to create one, and then inside that you add two columns. Then and only then you will be able to achieve this particular structure, like this particular structure in a Excel file or a Google sheet. So in these scenarios, avoid using CSV. Nested structure, not a good idea. But not next nested structure, good idea to store in a CSV file. And that was a big discussion about CSV and JSON. Something, yeah, yes, JSON is unstructured, will not fit in Excel. Yeah, I mean, def like that is one of the reasons definitely to go for, like, don't store unstructured data, but this has structure, so store it in a CSV file. But eventually, at least for the perspective of our session, we are going to convert our CSVs into JSON, because I wanted to show you how to do that using a particular library, which, surprise surprise, is called JSON. So yeah, we will do that, but yeah, step one would be to store in CSV. Now, I just realized that for the end of this session, we have just a minute left. So I'm going to actually end it and not start with CSV fiasco. Uh, but please remember this. What are we going to do in next session? Because I forget. So step one is we are going to store the data in a CSV. Step two is we are going to store more data. So we only have data for 2021 right now. We are going to create more CSV files with 2022, 23, 24. I'm sure they don't have 25 data. Actually, we can give it a try. 2025. Yeah, that they don't have 2025 data. So from 21 to 24, we are going to create store all the data into CSV files, and we are going to write our code to be more modular. So that's what we'll do in the next session. And once we have stored it into CSV files, then we'll try to convert it to a JSON, which is very simple, like 4 or 5 lines of code. But then comes the fast API bit. So I think that's going to drag along definitely in the third session. But for now, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope to see you back for the next session, of course. Okay, just don't get bored. So thank you so much, everyone. See you all. Bye bye.